Good evening and welcome to the program, The Law of the People and Governance here on Spectrum Television. It's a social-political program that talks about political trends and other trends here in Nigeria. My name is Rachel David White, and of course I'm not here alone. I told you my co-host was back from recess. Welcome back, Xavier.
Many thanks, Rachel. Great to be back, viewers.
All right, so a quick one. Let's just mention the things we're going to look at today. We're going to look at a couple reports here in Nigeria, and of course the first is that the chieftain of the All Progressives Congress, APC, and former majority leader of the House of Representatives, Al-Hassan Ado Doguwa, well, he has made a statement, and as well he has said that winning an election in Nigeria is not just about the number of votes cast. Well, speaking on the controversy surrounding the governorship election in Kano State during the interview, televised interview rather, yesterday, Doguwa said the rule of law must be followed in declaring any individual as winner of a poll. Well, he said the elections in a democratic setting like Nigeria are always about rules and regulations, and that contesting an election under this rule is what makes it free and fair. Now, let's just pause and, tinker. I remember when we discussed about these offset, we're arguing, I mean, why does it say that not just the number of votes, makes,
a person worthy to be declared winner? We were trying to find out what could really be his point of view, or what he was trying to say. And then we got to discover that indeed he was talking about the rule of law. But there's another angle to consider this issue, Rachel. What about the aspect of where these politicians are not, winning their votes the legal way, when they end up paying for these votes, and
everything is going accordingly, it looks like everything is fine, but things have already been cooked on the ground, and we're seeing something come out to play like a free and fair, but things have been sorted out. I think
so that's another angle to look at Doguwa's comments on election winning. Is not just about the number of votes, apart from the fact that he's trying to tell us that it's about rule of law.
Well, it looks to me like he had more to say anyway. Well, away from that, we've been talking about Ondo State crisis recently, and of course in Ondo State, the Deputy Governor, Lucky Ayedatiwa, is currently, or was already, the meeting is over. He was presiding over the State Executive Council meeting, and it followed months of tension over the absence of Governor Rotimi Akeredolu from the state. And the meeting, which was held at the office of the Deputy Governor, comes after a month of bickering between loyalists of the Deputy Governor and the Governor himself. Now, don't forget that on Friday, President Bola Tinubu last week summoned the two factions to a meeting in Abuja, where it was agreed that the Deputy Governor should continue to perform his duties as Deputy Governor. And of course, let's just tinker on that for a while as well.
Well, it's no longer news that Ondo State is gradually tilting to its Deputy Governor.
Why should it be called a faction?
You see, when it comes to politics, Rachel, we both know that there's the issue of interest.
Loyalists, yeah.
Yes, definitely. Some people are feeling they're losing out now because of the unfortunate ill health of the governor, Akeredolu. So if it is now turn for the Deputy Governor to take over, you know that definitely there are people that are loyalists to the Deputy Governor who are also going to stand to benefit, quote and unquote, from this new development. It reminds me.
You see, yesterday when I mentioned these, I talked about this with my guests yesterday. I mean, why should we have performing persons who are doing great and commissioners are doing great, and then they were there by merit, not by reward. And so the Deputy Governor comes in without interest, personal interest, and is saying, comes in to serve the public without personal gains or interest. And he says, I want to reshuffle the cabinet. So I need new commissioners.
So what are you trying to secure if you really didn't have interest in the seat? And it also reminds me of the time of former President Goodluck Jonathan, when he had to take over from Yaradua, late Yaradua. A similar scenario played out, but then we...
You know, even when he succeeded, now we lost Yaradua and we had Jonathan. Trust me, he did not have good sleep, night sleeps, because he was I can't explain. He was in the middle of Boko Haram insurgency, threatening if you don't leave power, this is going to happen, and all of that.
He was grappling with a lot of issues as at then. But then there's really no big issues to contend with as far as Ondo State is concerned. This is all about making sure that the economy of the state is stabilized, and then governance, the issue of governance kickstarts as much as possible. Okay,
let's get to talk about Governor Peter Mba right now in Enugu State.
The Governor Peter Mba of Enugu State has scored President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's economic policies high, saying they are good for foreign direct investments, the FDI. Governor Mba had visited President Tinubu on Tuesday at the presidential villa in Abuja. Now, in a statement on Wednesday via his official X handle, Mba said the unification of the exchange rate is one of the economic policies of the Tinubu government that has rubbed off positively on the states, including Enugu. The governor stated that the exchange rate unification has enabled investors to repatriate their funds and bring them into Enugu with ease, and has attracted more investors to the southeast state. Mba said the elimination of fuel subsidy, which is tough on the citizens at the moment, represents a daring solution to the country's ailing economy. He also asserted that he is confident that in the long term, Nigerians will benefit immensely from the subsidy removal. Rachel, I keep hearing in the long term, in the long term, in the long term. That is all it has been about. What happens in the now? What happens
in the now, we get to, face or grapple, get to struggle, trying to fit into the new position or into the new look of things right now.
And the well-placed individuals are not...
I think there are so many persons that won't actually say that would get upset when you tell them Merry Christmas this Christmas season, because I mean, what's there to merry about?
Rachel, I keep cringing anytime I think of Christmas this year, because I'm just trying to imagine how people are going to get by.
I mean people, because I wanted to ask, are you going to buy kids Christmas clothes? Moving away from that right now, following the alleged plot of by suspected arsonists to burn down the office of the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, in Lokoja, Kogi State capital, while security operatives have taken over the office premises. While it was gathered that main of the Nigerian Police Force, the Nigerian Army, and other security outfits were spotted with their armored personnel carriers to stop any invasion of the INEC office, and it was further learned that the ever-busy post office, where business activities boomed on a daily basis, was actually deserted, while vehicular movement was also restricted as motorists were forced to divert to other routes, especially those going to Abuja, Natako, and Felele axis. Now, don't forget that one of the political parties had accused the other of allegedly sponsoring thugs to destroy election materials in the INEC office. Now, we are talking about security. I think when we get to the fact that the preparation bill for next year will look at what is gulped out for security, because we are grappling to manage security situations in Nigeria.
Well, Rachel, we are still talking about election fallouts. Some people are still apparently aggrieved by the outcome of the elections that was held recently. Now, meanwhile, Senator Ethan Achononu of the Labour Party LP has raised serious allegations against the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, following the Imo State governorship election held some 19 days ago. Now, in a statement, Senator Chononu accused INEC of obstructing access to vital election materials crucial for his case at the Governorship Election Petitions Tribunal in a startling revelation. Now, the LP candidate expressed frustration at INEC's refusal to allow inspection of the Bimodal Voter Accreditation System (BVAS) despite a court order. He alleged that the move was orchestrated as a deliberate delay tactic by the ruling All Progressives Congress (APC) to hinder his petition filing, possibly leading to its dismissal on technical grounds. Now, Senator Chononu called upon President Bola Ahmed Tinubu to compel INEC to uphold transparency in the electoral process.
You know, I would want to say elections are over. Well, not the ones that just finished. They still have the right to
and then it beats my imagination why they can't just release these election materials to people that are aggrieved. Why stall the release when you will eventually release? Or is that something a bigger picture we're not seeing?
Okay, now moving away from that, before we get to our guest, the 2024 budget proposal presented to the National Assembly drew praise and, of course, condemnation from a section of Nigerians yesterday. Now, President Bola Tinubu said Nigeria's national defense and internal security, local job creation, macroeconomic stability, investment environment optimization, human capital development, poverty reduction, and, of course, social security are some of the top priorities of the budget of Renewed Hope agenda. While addressing a joint session of the National Assembly in Abuja, Tinubu said yesterday that the nation's internal security architecture would be overhauled to enhance law enforcement capabilities with a view to safeguarding life, property, and investment across the country. Well, speaking on the economy, Tinubu said the stable macroeconomic environment is crucial in his administration's bid to catalyze private investment and, of course, also accelerate economic growth. Now, hence, his government shall continue to implement business and investment-friendly measures for sustainable growth.
Now, the president said a conservative oil price benchmark of $77.96 per barrel and a daily oil production estimate of 1.78 million barrels per day were adopted after a careful review of global oil market trends, and that a naira to dollar exchange rate of 750 naira per dollar was adopted for 2024 as well. And given the breakdown, the 2024 appropriation bill, the president said that an aggregate expenditure of 27.5 trillion naira is proposed for the federal government in 2024, of which the non-debt recurrent expenditure is 9.92 trillion naira, while debt service is projected to be 8.25 trillion naira and capital expenditure is 8.7 trillion naira.
Well, Nigerians actually, remains committed to meeting its debt obligation, I must say. Well, and of course, projected debt service is 45% of the expected total revenue. So, the president has also said that his administration remains committed to broad-based and shared economic prosperity as well. According to him, he says they are reviewing social investment programs to enhance their implementation and effectiveness. In particular, the National Social Safety Net Project, according to him, will be expanded to provide targeted cash transfers to poor and vulnerable households. But the opposition People's Democratic Party, PDP, described the budget as a huge disservice. It therefore called on the National Assembly, pursuant to the duty under Section 80, 81, and 82 of the 1999 Constitution to project the document as presented and use its legislative powers to disassemble it.
The PDP warned that if the budget is allowed to pass, it will further asphyxiate citizens and plunge the nation into more economic depression, hopelessness. The party is also describing The party also described claim by Tinubu that the presentation is a budget of renewed hope as allegedly conjured, unfounded and deceptive. It said the budget is, in its words, completely devoid of concrete mechanisms to revive the economy, create jobs, address the alleged comatose manufacturing and productive sectors, human capital development deficiencies, and depleting life expectancy of Nigerian citizens. Really strong words there, Rachel.
Well, don't forget, in a statement yesterday, the National Publicity Secretary, Depo Ologunagba, PDP, said the 2024 budget is filled with heavily padded figures, duplicated items, and several false statistics, including claims of global increase in inflation rate as excuse for an impending excruciating increase in tax to the detriment of the productive sector. Also, in an interview with one of the popular newspapers, Executive Director of Human Rights Writers Association of Nigeria, Horiwa Emmanuel, drew attention to recent revelation by Debt Management Office, the DMO, that Nigeria's total public debt hit 87.38 trillion at the end of the second quarter of this year. Meanwhile, delivering a speech before Tinubu presented the budget to the joint session, Senate President Godswill Akpabio had praised the bond between the legislature and the executive, saying never had they had so many bridges and connection points between these two arms of government, and they will continue to work hand in hand to see eye to eye with the executive arm while ensuring that the principles of separation of powers as well as checks and balances as enshrined in the Constitution are observed in the overriding public interest. That's one thing I must commend them for, seeing those two arms sit down together and, of course, like, yes, to listen to the president come to an agreement.
Yes, absolutely. It's commendable. But then, Rachel, it also comes to a point where they would also have to look at the budget presented by the president and objectively pinpoint those areas that people are raising concerns about. Now, for other issues that arose was that the Tinubu-led government was to provide quick and sustainable solutions. The antecedents of the president and track record in governance was said to inspire a lot of hope in Nigerians. Now,
that's coming from Tajuddin Abbas.
Yes, the Speaker of the House of Representatives. Now, Abbas said the budget should not be seen as a mere financial document, but a reflection of collective resolve to address the most critical needs of long-suffering citizens.
I like the fact that they recognize that the citizens have suffered for long.
I understand that.
While he also said in order to promote economic growth and development, the budget should prioritize social welfare programs and reduce poverty and inequality. Equal important, according to the Speaker, is job creation and youth empowerment in view of large of overgrowing youth population. While some lawmakers at the National Assembly who spoke, of course, to newsmen, described the proposal as realistic. The likes of Senator Jimoh Ibrahim, APC Ondo, said it was fantastic.
Now, Ibrahim, in his words, says the 2024 budget has a deficit financing of about 8.7 trillion naira, which would be funded through external borrowing. It said it is fair. It is a fair budget, and it is on infrastructure development. Above all, averagely, it is a fair budget, except that it has to look at the area for funding.
Well, the chairman, Senate Committee on Finance, Sani Musa, has said that they've never had it so good in budget presentation, where the capital expenditure has been raised to about 8 trillion naira and the debt servicing has reduced. He said we are looking at making the dollar 750 naira per dollar instead of 700, which means that they are going to get more revenue from that. Well, on his part, Solomon Adel, IPC Ogun, said the budget was a paradigm shift from the norm of the nation's budget representation. And of course, according to him, he says they believe that this is a trend that will continue and Nigerians can witness for the first time a government that has lessened its borrowing and has taken up its capital expenditure. This is the right step in the right direction, and they appreciate President Bola Tinubu for making such a great step. And he said the president has done well in funding the supplementary budget Well, the subsidy removal and unification of rate are some of the economic reforms. If well utilized and pursued, Nigerians will soon start to experience a country that will actually keep going up. That's according to them.
Well, Rachel, that's quite a mouthful.
Of course, looking at the budget, talking about defense, security sector, taking the largest chunk of the sectoral allocations. This is something we'll talk about.
Yeah, absolutely. The defense and security sector has taken the largest chunk of sectoral allocations of the aggregate expenditure of the 27.5 trillion naira 2024 budget proposal, with a sum of 3.25 trillion naira, representing 12% of the appropriation bill.
Well, and come to think of it, that you know, it has already passed second reading. It's a good thing just before the Senate goes on recess on the 1st of December. Well, we'll go on a short break, and when we come right back, I guess we'll be here so we can discuss properly. I mean, the budget is something we should talk about. So do stay tuned. We're coming right back.
On behalf of the Right Honorable Speaker of the House of Representatives, the distinguished Deputy Senate President, the Right Honorable Deputy Speaker of the House of Representatives, the distinguished Senate Leader, the principal officers of both chambers, distinguished senators and honorable members of the House of Representatives, I, distinguished Senator Godswill Akpabio, with great honor and privilege, welcome an alumnus of this great National Assembly, our Reformation Ambassador to Aso Rock Villa, the esteemed President, Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, His Excellency Senator Bola Ahmed Tinubu, GCFR. To the joint sitting of the National Assembly, for this crucial budget presentation session of the 2024 budget estimates. We collectively extend the same sentiments to our esteemed Vice President, His Excellency Kashim Shettima, GCON, the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, George Akume, the Chief of Staff to Mr. President, the Right Honorable Femi Gbajabiamila, and indeed all honorable members of the Cabinet of Mr. President, and of course, other members of Mr. President's entourage here present. It is said that no matter how high the eagle flies, its talons keep pointing to the earth. Mr. President, we know that no matter how high you rise in life, your heart will always point to this assembly. Mr. President, the United States of America has had democracy for about 247 years. But it was only when it marked its 185th anniversary, that it succeeded in producing two former senators, John F. Kennedy and Lyndon Johnson, as president and vice president, respectively. But within 24 years of our democracy, we have achieved what took the United States of America 185 years to achieve. Not only do we have two former distinguished senators serving as president and vice president of our dear country, we also have other alumni of this National Assembly in positions of public trust. The Secretary to the Government, George Akume, CON, the Chief of Staff to Mr. President, Right Honorable Femi Gbajabiamila, CFR, the former Speaker, and other representatives in Mr. President's Cabinet. And even for those appointments, we thank Mr. President. Mr. President, distinguished and honorable members, maintaining a cordial relationship with the executive arm has always been a requirement of the law. But now, given that our old boys run the executive, a good relationship with the executive is a must for all of us. Never have we had so many bridges and connection points between the two arms of government in Nigeria. So we will continue to work hand in hand and see eye to eye with the executive arm while ensuring that the principles of separation of powers as checks and balances as enshrined in our Constitution are observed in the overriding public interest. Achievements of Mr. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's administration so far. Those who doubted him initially forgot his track record as the governor of Lagos State from 1999 to the year 2007. And Lagos, of course, is Nigeria's melting pot. They forgot his various economic reforms that helped attract investments and promoted economic growth, improved the ease of doing business, promoted business policies, and attracted foreign direct investment, not to mention today's robust internally generated revenue, which he grew as the governor of Lagos State from 600 million to today's 59 billion. Nigerians strongly believe that with the debt profile of the day today, that we are the man for the job to fix our economy. On behalf of
in furtherance of my sacred duty and obligations as the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, it is my honor to be here today to present my administration's 2024 budget proposal to this joint session of the 10th National Assembly. This moment is especially profound and significant to me because it is my first annual budget presentation to the National Assembly. Distinguished senators and honorable members of the National Assembly, I commend your swift consideration and passage of the 2023 Supplementary Appropriation Bill and the 2024 to 2026 Medium-Term Expenditure Framework and Fiscal Strategy paper. Your prompt action underscores your devotion to economic development and to the greater welfare of our people. It also highlights your desire to work in close collaboration with the executive branch.
It's still the program, The Law of the People and Governance. And of course, we were listening to the President and of course the Senate President. It's good to see that the green and the red chamber were right there together receiving the President. While we're being joined already on standby via audio call by an Associate Professor of Political Science and Public Administration, University of Uyo, a highly published scholar, and of course a public affairs analyst. So, Associate Professor Etem Frank, good evening and welcome to the show, sir.
Thanks for having me. Good evening.
Okay, so I know we're supposed to take you on time, but we apologize for taking your time to explain better to the people. Now, we're talking about the 2024 budget. And looking at the budget, we've seen that defense and, of course, the education sector and all of that has eaten a whole large chunk, and also noticed that capital projects have gulped a larger sum than debt deficit. So, in your own assessment of a breakdown of this budget, what do you have to say? Would you commend the president, or do you have your reservations?
Well, I have my reservation. We must understand first there was a supplementary budget. We must not lose sight of that. And supplementary budget, theoretically, empirically, are additional budget meant to complete ongoing projects. However, in this case, you had supplementary budget having new capital projects. Yachts, purchase of yachts, for example. So that supplementary budget had its own problem. It was not a real supplementary budget in the way it ought to be. That's number one. Now, when you take the total amount of the supplementary budget and add up to this, you find a whole large chunk of money. It will appear that the government is not aware that we are in a recession. We are in a recession. And when you are in a recession, not enough production is taking place. And therefore, the one way to go is investment to generate production. Okay? To exist side by side with men who are looking for jobs, to get a job to do. That's then you stimulate the economy. You expand the economy. But here we are. All the expenditure you will have now, none is in the area of investment to create new wealth and address unemployment. There we go. Like you said, 6.75% on defense, education and infrastructure out of 27.5 trillion. Personnel and pension, 576.6 billion. And this government is expecting to get 10.4 trillion dividend from tax. It means we are all going to be taxed, except maybe the air we breathe, to realize this amount of money. And it's expecting to have oil production at 77.96% per barrel, and FX at 750 naira per dollar. That is not realizable. You know, I know.
Why do you say so? Don't you think that the government, before saying these, may have other strategies that need to, introduce to the system to ensure that, we need to sit up to realize this?
The budget so far has not shown that. What they intend to do, the budget has not shown. What the budget has shown is that this government intends to raise 10.4 trillion dividend from taxation. Taxation. Tell me, what is that you're going to tax? Everybody is in a commerce economy. Everybody's selling. So inflation will keep rising. Nobody is producing.
Okay.
If you produce, you address the issue in the economy. Go ahead.
Associate Prof, you mentioned about the yacht that was specified in the supplementary budget. Would you like to clarify why you feel the issue of the supplementary budget should be raised now that the president has presented the 2024 budget?
First and foremost, we need to take the total amount of the supplementary budget and add up to this to have a picture of this government expenditure. If you lose sight of that, then you are not having a good analysis. That's one. Two, yachts. I have said already, supplementary budget is intended to complete ongoing projects, so you can have a new slate to work on.
Of course.
But this time around, I'm coming, sir, just a minute. This time around, you have new items that were not in the original budget you are completing, you are supplementing. That's not the way to go. So that is my point about supplementary budget then this. Now, this budget, maybe in the days to come, the Minister of Finance will give us more lucid budget analysis to show investment points in which they are going to make. And as it is now, you and I do not know where and what they are going to invest on, rather than say they are going to build infrastructure. What kind of infrastructure? We need it defined.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Now, you've tried to explain, made some point about, your reservations. I mean, the fact that Nigerians are going to be taxed, and maybe that is part of the things that most Nigerians never really looked into before praising the budget. Because I mean, it's a good question. How are we going to realize that kind of money? It simply means everything is going to be there's going to be tax on everything. Now, away from that, at what point would you say, oh, I give it to the president on this? I mean, the fact that defense and security has taken the largest chunk, followed by education, don't you think that that is a good thing already for that budget if it will be implemented? Because the problem is not just allocating money, it's actually using that money wisely for what it was meant for.
Good question. There is something we call politics of the budgeting processes. Now, you said education is attached to defense and security. That is very broad. That's nothing to be excited about. How much out of this 6.75 trillion is earmarked for education? Remember, somewhere there 50 billion is for student loan scheme. Is this 50 billion?
Okay, Associate Prof, let me say something. Let me say something at that point. Now, initially, that brings us back to the yacht issue. Initially, there was I think it was 5 million naira that was earmarked for student loan. And then when the yacht issue came, it was also 5 million naira. And then to a point where the presidency explained that it never requested for a presidential yacht. Rather, it was the Navy that needed it for, I think, their services or so. And then it was clarified, and then the 5 billion for yacht was added to the 5 million for student loan, which made it 10 million naira. Please go ahead.
Okay. If someone inserted something in the budget of the government, and the government never intended that to be done, what should the government do? Fire the fellow. Fire the fellow. Who has been penalized for that yacht issue if they were serious? That's one. Two, the Navy, where have you heard that Navy use yachts to fight sea piracy or do their job? Where have you ever heard that? Which arsenal of the naval fleet around the world have yachts? Which one? Why must it be in Nigeria? No, I want to know. In my strategic study of studying arsenal of countries across the world, I've not seen one that has one warfare ship called yacht. I don't. It's millionaires, billionaires, and trillionaires that buy yachts to enjoy themselves on sea. Okay, that's that. So you have not punished anybody. And that's an embarrassment. And it's coming in a supplementary budget. So if you have not punished anybody, then we know that lack of discipline is part of our norm in this system. Okay. I would say so.
Associate Prof.
So. You say, yes, sir.
No, go ahead. It's like you're analyzing something. Go ahead.
Yeah, I haven't said so. We have 50 billion student loan scheme standing away from the 6.75 trillion on defense and security, education, and infrastructure. That is what the budget says. I need to have specifics. What in education is going to be addressed? Is it the kind of office I'm sitting to talk to you now? Which I wish you were here. I'm sitting down here for accreditation. Is it what specific? Remember, this same government have launched new universities. Are you aware of that? Hello?
Of course.
Okay, if you are aware of that, what happened to the existing one? Are the existing ones up to standard? So we need to interrogate this aspect of education being lumped with security and infrastructure. I tell you one thing, a man called Professor Aaron Velasca called that politics of budgeting processes. You need to break it down, let us see. Make a line item budgeting So we know what education is going to take out of that. Putting it together like this confuses you and I, and I'm not confused. It's all politics. Then you come education, student loan, 50 billion. Now, when the student get the loan, how do they pay it back? What are the conditionalities for the loan? How do they pay the loan back? When in this budget there are no provisions for certain industries that will demand labor, with the student will work and be able to get paid, and then he pays back the loan. When in this budget, I have not seen where they're going to build a new refinery. A military government of this country, in a short while, build refineries for us. So, and the refinery, you can fix it. So, where are the investment in this budget? The budget looks fine on the surface for some people. For me now, it's a spending thrift. Go ahead, sir.
Okay, Associate Prof. The opposition People's Democratic Party, they've had a couple of things to say to the negative as regards this budget. The PDP is of the opinion that the budget is a huge disservice to Nigerians, and it therefore called on the National Assembly, pursuant to its duty under Section 80, 81, and 82 of the 1999 Constitution, to reject the document as presented by using its legislative powers to disassemble it. Do you think it's speaking just as an opposition party would, or are there points to take up from the PDP's position?
Number one, I refuse to call the PDP an opposition party. It's not an opposition party. It's just a party waiting in the wings for its time to get to do what it knows how to do. And I don't share their opinion. Number one, let's take this. A budget is a tool for financial stability. Looking at this budget as it is, what element of financial stability in the economy is there? I'm asking you. Number two, a budget is a tool for goal attainment. What are the goals intended to achieve by this budget? One of the goals is that you and I are going to get taxed, except the air we breathe. The bus is going to be taxed, the food is going to be taxed, already a telephone call is taxed, recharging transfer fees on when you do transfer, tax. A tool for economic well-being. How are you going to achieve economic well-being for Nigerians on this budget? How would that elitist budget satisfy the above conditions I've mentioned? You fix the effects at some. How will you? You don't produce anything to sell to Americans and the world. So you cannot control the exchange rate because you have nothing to sell it. You sell crude oil. Even the crude oil is refined abroad and brought back to you. You know what? When the crude oil is refined abroad, the gas you buy, you lose the gas, you lose the kerosene, you lose the bitumen, you lose all those side byproducts that you use for further production. That is the nature of our economy. So, for me, without sharing a PDP's place, I'm saying that this budget is a spending thrift by the government.
Okay, now I'm not going to, make you shift your thoughts or whatever you're holding on to, but another critical allocation in the 2024 budget is the health sector, which have been suffering and staggering. I think recently we've heard that so many patients have been rejected or sent out of their wards because doctors are no longer in many hospitals. Now, the health sector has been allocated the sum of 1.33 trillion naira, representing 5% of the projected expenditure. Now, what do you have to say about the health sector?
That's fine. Very good idea. Very beautiful idea. Beautiful idea if it is going to go to the pharmaceutical sector to produce drugs in country. Beautiful idea if it's going to go actually into the expansion of the current health infrastructure round about the country, not just using it for a health center in Aso Rock or health center somewhere in the one corner. That is to ensure that it's spread all around the country for everybody to have. So it's a beautiful thing. But the question is the implementation. You may be surprised. Remember in the last regime, the wife of Buhari did say that there was not even a Panadol in Aso Rock clinic. You recall? Except if you were not, if you were
no,
not
no.
in this
I think that administration between the husband and the wife, there were so many things the wife came out to counter. Actually,
she said so to Nigerians. And if there was drug in Aso Rock Clinic, why did Mr. President go to London for treatment? Why did he go to London for treatment? He didn't. He went.
That already is
that
a
place
tradition.
was-
That already is a tradition in Nigeria, Professor.
Well, why should it be a tradition? Don't you have doctors here? Nigerian doctors are doing well abroad. Why can you expand the facilities and bring them back? More importantly, let's address the issue you raised. If that amount of money will be used in producing drugs in country, that's my point. To produce drugs in country, it makes sense. But if it is to be given as contracts and at the end of the day, the projects are not completed and the money goes, boom, then we'll still be where we are. As a matter of fact, most Nigerians, including me, I'm returning to native doctors for treatment. Yes.
Okay, doctor. I think that's a good way to go.
As we begin to wind down, Doctor, Associate Prof, we've now had the budget presented by President Tinubu, and the issue now is with the National Assembly and its consideration of the budget. In your own opinion, what do you think should be those steps the National Assembly should take in ensuring that we have a proper budget that would serve Nigerians well in 2024?
This National Assembly is not a new National Assembly. They've been there before. Budget in the last 8 years, I've gone through them. So I'm not expecting them. In fact, I don't have any expectation of them. They will do the normal thing they used to do. At the end of the day, there'll be supplementary budget again on this. Because the funds will come and go, and Nigerians will not have the services. So it is, unfortunately, I'm not expecting anything fantastic out of that. But what I say is they will do their usual work. Send it to the committees, come back. All those who agree that the budget should buy, I serve it. You know, this National Assembly is not debating anything. This current National Assembly is not debating anything. I was expecting a robust debate in view of your Labour Party, PDP, APC. But we are not seeing that kind of robust debate in the National Assembly. So many of us are losing confidence in it. And then budget goes in and come out. Well, I don't expect anything new. This budget will come out. They will add even more money to this budget by the time it comes back. So,
thank you so much, Associate Prof. Thank you.
Thank you so very much.
Okay, so I'm sorry, looking at our time now, we have to call it a day for now. Thank you so much. It's good to have you on the show. Hope to have you some other time. We've been speaking to an associate professor of political science and public administration, University of Uyo, a highly published scholar and a public affairs analyst in the person of Professor Associate Professor Etam Frank. Thank you so much once again. Thank you, Xavier. It's been a good show today.
That's a really rewarding time we had on the show this evening, Rachel.
All right, back to the people. Don't forget, this is where we call it a wrap for the week. But catch you again next week. Meanwhile, don't forget to follow us on social media and subscribe to our YouTube channel, all of which you can find on our website, SpectrumTVLive.ng. It's been a good one.
Yes, my name is Xavier Robert. Catch you again next week.
And I am Rachel David White. Good evening.